Good morning, students. Yeah, I hope you have revived yourself. Yesterday was holiday from the class for you, and today again we are back with the same chapter, the enemy. Well, I would like to tell you one thing. This chapter is of course lengthy, and we are treating it as if a regular classroom. And so, even if it takes 2 or 3 more classes, you don't lose your patience. I have not lost my patience, and I will not lose my patience because unless we understand this chapter, in its real term, I mean to say, its own significant themes, the elusive things which are described over here, our purpose is not fully solved. And so, though we are not going line by line, we are just taking some, extract of paragraphs, and accordingly we are making the explanations. Still, it is possible sometimes when one particular chapter, gets prolonged for a long time, we tend to lose interest in it. But there is no, question of all that. We have to, give some more time if the chapter is a little lengthier. Well, before we recall the chapter, I would insist on some important things which have been noticed, and it's a very serious thing. See, already we understand it is such a tough time going on for everyone, and from our school side, we are making all the efforts that we, retrieve all the content that could have been taught there in the physical classrooms, and we have made all those arrangements. All our administration, principal, vice principal, and from our primary HM madam, and also all the teachers who are involved in this process. They have put in, tremendous efforts to bring all these things, to make free from any kind of contamination. So by being at home, you can do your work, and you have been sending it to a Google Classroom. Now, one thing is noticed when it came from my subject, that most of you people have done your theory, but there are some people who have, manipulated the whole system. They made use of the technology in order to save their, actual effort, and this is something wrong. See, if you had been there in the classroom, a lot of writing would have been there. And what you have done is here, at least earlier when you would write there in the notebooks, you would be at least copying from somebody or from, the notes which are provided from there, you could have, taken the notes and you could have written your own answers. But it is something very, very wrong. And you don't, take your teachers to be fools. It is really so wrong. First of all, you have breached the faith that we have imposed in you. We believe in you and we trust you that you are going to be the good citizens of this country. But by resorting to all these kind of means, it is a bleak future for all of us. First of all, we have to be honest at our own work, and then only can we expect anything great from the country. Country is not a geographical phenomenon. It's made by, contribution of yours and mine. So, first thing, whatever, the shortcuts you had tried, they are not correct. And it's not that we just blindly just go on checking your work. It is never so. Because in most cases, it is just extract from the notes which are already provided as in the form of handouts. We already have answers over there. Now, what you need is, if you can make it even better, what you can do is, you can put your own vocabulary in it. You can change the sentence structure. You can give the priority as per the requirement of the question, and accordingly frame your answers. Or the least that effort you wanted to put, so whatever the answer is there, already there in the worksheet, you could have taken from there. But you can just simply not circulate one particular copy by just changing the layout of it, or by changing the background of it, or its color, by changing it, the page number you change, file numbers you change, and then you send it. It is something so wrong, and this will be, of course, will be quite so seriously. It's my duty to bring it to the notice of the head of the school, and I did so. And in case this continues, of course, these names are already, whatever the names were there, I am not taking out those names in the online class. Whatever the names are there, already sir has sent one list over there, and there may be some more, because some more copies are still to be checked. So it's advised to them, all of them, that they should not resort to this kind of things, and instead they must do their real and original work, because in this scenario and in the days to come, it is every way possible that the marks would be allotted based on your interaction, with the school. What is the school gives you the work as to how you are all doing that. All those things will become extremely important. One more thing I would like to tell you, this was all regarding your assignments. Next, I would tell you just why they must have resorted to this, kind of manipulation is because they just must have given their attendance and must have run away from the class. If they had been quite careful about it, you must understand you are in class 12. It's no longer class 11. So class 11 already had the base for it. And now you are in class 12. You are not supposed to resort to any of these kind of things. Instead, you are expected to be more focused, more careful, more thoughtful about your work. Because by this means you are not going to clear your first time. So I am very serious about it, though I may sound a little softer to you, but the fact is, this is something wrong and it has already been brought. And this list has been preserved. Next time, if this kind of thing is found, you will not be given the internal marks the way you are expecting. So it was something about assignments. Now, next is you attend the class, you attend the whole class, because at this moment, what I see is 34 are watching. So it is possible that sometimes you may, just put your attendance and go away from them. Do you think that you are doing anything good to you by doing all that? I don't think you are doing so. And it is not a kind of forced situation. It is up to you now. And what we need is your own honesty. Your own parents must be there around you. They must also see whether their child is watching or their child is learning anything from this classroom. And we are making all the effort to do something good to you people. So we did not force you to come to the classroom because the situation is there like that. So by being at home, you can do most of your work. Kindly do this. And for some people, if they find it might talk to be little harsh, I only feel sorry, but the crude fact, I brought you on it notice. Now, coming to the last part of the chapter, here we had almost brought it to an end. It seemed to both of them, Sadao and Hana, that there was kind of figure like a human being, a person, and both of them, when they were sitting in their balcony, they rushed to the person. They wanted to rescue that man, whoever was that fellow. They had thought that it must be only a fisherman because the fishing villages were there some 1 or 2 kilometers away from their place of stay. So naturally, it could have been a fisherman who must have been off his board, and therefore it was required that he must have been wounded, so he must be helped. And it was the atmosphere was such that it was mist all around, and within no time it was able to engulf their own house. This was what we had seen, and how he was walking. It was staggering. One word is used. I think this vocabulary is already known to you. If you do not know, try to get its meaning. So it was staggering. That is, he was unable to walk forward. That's what we had seen. And now next comes is the whole environment, the pine trees and all, or whatever the trees were there. And by that time, this fellow, Sadao, and right behind him, on his way, they had reached that fellow. Now, next is, he is wounded, and they say the page number 27, you check, the second paragraph that begins. He is wounded, Sadao exclaimed, and the meaning of exclamation, of course, I emphasized in my last class. You already know what exclamation is, but I just wanted to bring it to your notice again, because with the passage of time, certain things go that will fade it for us. So it's again quite clear that it is, he had exclaimed by a kind of surprise he had, expressed as soon as he had seen the wound of that man, and also some sand which had got stuck to his skin, and it was also his blood was soaking. The sand was soaking his blood. That all we had seen. The next paragraph that comes is the one-line paragraph is there, and where it is said by Hana, a white man. Before that, before they had recognized it was a white man, they had only the field of humanity. The need of one human being helping another one. That was the only thing. And out of that mercy, both of them had, rushed towards that man in order to rescue him. This was what we had discussed. Now here, the last line that I talked to you, a white man. Now here, I would like to bring it to your notice. See, as long as we are Indians and abroad, you just notice this point what I'm trying to bring it to your notices. We are when abroad, we are only Indians. We are not asked, the linguistic identity of ours or the cultural identity of ours. We are only considered only to be Indians. But within India, then we ask for different more identities. This is something wrong that we have been doing. Then, in the name, actually, why do we do so? Because we want to put ourselves in that comfort zone. I belong to that group, or they belong to my group, or they do not belong to my group. This is a narrow kind of thinking. With all civilized ways, with all more education, it must be gone. We should not have these smaller barriers, and that is what we are trying to do. For last 70 plus years, that we give up all this kind of smaller discriminations, and then we must proceed. Now here, the moment this Japanese girl Anna noticed that this was a white man, then immediately she might have related it to an enemy, country. So now she will have to decide upon it as to how she will have to deal with this particular situation. Before that, the wounded person was just a human being, just a man. Now he has got one more, attitude to it, and that fellow is a white man. Yes, it was a white man. The next paragraph follows. The wet cap fell away, and I think in the last class we had also discussed. I told you there is a surprise for me. The man was being, thrown by the waves, and still his cap remained. Anyways, then I told you this willing suspension of disbelief. Well, afterwards, now his cap fell away, and there was his wet yellow hair, long, as though for many weeks it had not been cut, and upon his young and tortured face was a rough yellow beard. He was unconscious and knew nothing that they did for him. So now, one thing also we can understand, as they must have approached this fellow without knowing the identity, they must have started doing some work for this man. And now, gradually, they will undergo this thinking as to how we can handle this situation, or whether we should help. This first of all, they will have the dilemma whether we must help this man or not, because that man turns out to be our enemy, and that is exactly the name of the chapter, the enemy. Because they favored, Japan favored some particular countries, and here these other countries, they favored another particular group. Now they would have to decide upon it. So whatever was done to see the wound of this man, or to check it out, to examine the body of this man in order to give him some treatment. This was, of course, not known to this white man, because he had fallen unconscious. Next line I'm just reading in the next paragraph. Now Sadao remembered the wound, and with his expert fingers he began to search for it. Blood flowed freshly at his touch. On the right side of his lower back, Sadao saw that a gun wound had been reopened. The flesh, that is skin, was blackened with powder. Sometime, not many days ago, the man had been shot and had not been tended, that is, had not been treated. It was bad chance that the rock had struck the wound. Now, what we understand from this particular paragraph is Sadao's hand had automatically started functioning, to search for the wound or the gravity of the wound. And at the moment he had reached that part of the wound, and his fingers touched the wound, blood started coming out. This, if we try to understand, what we know is, it is somebody's expert profession. If somebody is extremely good at his profession, like people say, no, you just wake me up in the midnight, and I will still be able to give you this particular answer. The reason is if somebody has dealt with that particular situation so well and so long that one is able to handle that situation in any condition, even with one's eyes closed. Like this, we understand it is not again, the thought of that man, white man, to be his enemy was troubling him. Instead, naturally, his hands had reached the wounds and what work he needed to do, all that. A surgeon's, you can say, expert hands started working on it. This is what we can understand from this paragraph. Now, next time, moving on to the next one. Now, flesh, of course, I explained to you, refers to the skin. And what he had assessed is it must be the wound because of some bullet. He must have been shot earlier, and it must not be very old one, a recent one, maybe. Oh, so how he is bleeding, Hannah whispered again in a sullen voice. The mist screened them not completely, that's covered them can be, or had seen them. And at this time of the day, no one came back. The fishermen had gone home, and even the chance beachcombers would have considered the day at an end. So this means now that beach was totally empty. Nobody was there. Generally, those people, the guards, you can say, on the seashores or on the beaches, they also might have left. And they are called as beachcombers. Even those people had already left. So nothing was for them to be seen by anyone. Next, what shall we do with this man? Sadao muttered, because now the identity became clear. And they were divided in the name of two groups. Their countries were divided into two groups. And naturally, if you are trying to do favor to someone who doesn't belong to your country, in the conditions where it is especially in the time of war, so you would never be taken as a patriot. Instead, you would be taken as a traitor, Traitor. This is the opposite word of patriot. Patriot is one, इसको अपन देशभक्त कहते हैं, और देशद्रोही in English is called a traitor. So they could have been named as traitor, and for whose sake they must do that. So that thought must be troubling them. For someone who is just an enemy of theirs, and for that sake, that's where the question comes to the mind of Sadao. What shall we do to this man? Muttered, just not spoken very clearly. But his trained hands seemed on their own will to be doing what they could to stanch the fearful bleeding. He packed the wound with the sea moss. Sea moss, and that moss with that, something is to be there so that the flow of the blood can be packed with something. Now, he just found a moss quite handy for him. He just must have placed it there so that his wound does not bleed more. With the sea moss that strewed the beach, the man moaned, that is, the complaining voice, or you can say the voice that comes in pain. The man moaned with pain in his stupor. In his stupor is a phrase which means unconscious state. That is, in his unconscious state, this man started, moaning because the wound, wherever it is already injury, and you get it touched, by even your own hands, you will find that you ooze with pain. You will experience a lot of pain. The same thing here. The man, had experienced that pain. Of course, he was in his unconscious state, but he did not awaken. That means he could not come back to consciousness. The next thing. So what I mean to say, again here there is a reference. The mind was telling what to do with this man because this man turns out to be an enemy. But the next thought is also there at the same time. His hands are already, doing their work. And what was the work? A surgeon must, or doctor must treat wherever he finds the patient. He must not, he doesn't see any discrimination in the name of any that we have seen several times. So no such discrimination works for, a doctor. A doctor is only a doctor. And then he will treat a patient. And you might have seen what kind of patients, they are handling at this time, COVID-19. At the risk of their own lives they are doing. They don't even, have to bother about their families, but they would have to, try to heal someone who is in great pain. So this is the current situation, and all of us can, very easily try to understand, though we will not be able to understand the actual experience of this, but somehow, we can get that idea yeah, how these people must be, putting themselves in a danger, doing good to weak people. So this Sadao, as a surgeon and as a doctor, you can say, he had started naturally because that mind is already set accordingly, and his hands had started, doing the work on their own. Next, I think the important line is here is undoubtedly that would be the best, like throwing him back. The best thing that we could do about that, the best thing that we could do be to put him back in the sea. Sadao said, answering himself. When the thought came to him, what to do with this man, then later on, of course, his hands were in action. But the thought again came to his mind. See, I can see here 47 and watching now this class of ours. Quite so happy. I clap for you. Please continue. And not just for my class, you'll be present for all the classes. Mind you, because all of you will have to face the examination in any condition. So once these classes are missed by you, I'm not very sure that you are going to go back to those old videos and you are going to watch them, then. This is called procrastination. Why not do the work now itself? So please remember, I'm happy for all those people who are watching at this moment this class. It gives me encouragement. And getting back to that mood. So when the thought came to his mind, Sadao's mind as to what to do with this man, whether it would be right to help this man out of his difficulty. So the first thought that came to his mind, the best thing would be, the kindest thing would be to the American soldier, is to throw him back into the water. उसको उसके हाल पे छोड़ देना would have been the most better thing, because there are two things involved. One is the problem for them, and next is even if he is healed, he would be facing more trouble. The kindest thing that happened to him when the recent, you can say, Boon or Gunda recently killed from Kanpur, is that he was killed. If he had been alive, he would have faced more difficulties and more problems would have been there for him. So more torture would have been for him. That's what these people say. Even if this man is found here in Japan, so he is the enemy of Japan and he will face even more trouble. So the kindest thing would be throwing him back into the water again. And that's what exactly they say in the following paragraph. And they say, the kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea. Anna said, but neither of them moved. Though sometimes we say it is something kind of harsh kind of decision. Though sometimes we say it is something wrong. This is something that we can do, the harsh thing that we can do. But our heart, sometimes does not allow us to do that, because we feel that somewhere it is something wrong that we are doing. It is something inhuman kind of behavior that we are showing to someone. So, though they both of them said the kindest thing would be to throw this man back into the sea, yet both of them did not make any movement. So this means they were, of course, their mind said one thing, but their heart was telling something else. Because a doctor's heart is to treat patient, and they cannot see any patient in trouble. So whatever is possible by them is ability to do that. And that is what I consider doctors to be the living gods. And at this moment it is proved they are the living gods for us. I have a lot of respect for them. My salute, through this class of mine to all those doctors, and I wish most of you people turn out doctors. Well, so then they came to know the identity of this man that comes next to next paragraph, which begins with, there is something about him that looks American, Sadao said, and he took out the matted cap. Matted is in a matte condition. Kharab, uski cap, usko lekar. He checked the cap. Yes, there, almost gone was the faint drink. A sailor, he said, from an American warship. He spelled out US Navy. The man was a prisoner of war, and now the identity had become extremely clear. Suppose the question is there to you. So, who was that man whom both of them, Sadao and Hana, had helped? So, he was a prisoner of war. That you can say, American soldier. You can say, he was from the US Navy, but also you would have to say he was a prisoner of war. And he had escaped somehow, Hana cried softly, and that is why he is wounded. And maybe because he just wanted to escape from there, and in the process of it, he must have been shot, and so is he wounded. Well, coming on to the further conversations, I come to the next point where the paragraph begins with no. No, Hannah said. But if you can do it alone, that means when they might have decided we must throw that fellow back into the sea. Well, they must have agreed to some extent, but later on they felt that who would do that job? So Hana must have said, I am not going to do that. If you want to do this, you do it all alone. And on this point, I think they must have thought of doing something. And next is, I'm just reading out. But if you can do it alone, that's what must have been the reply of Hana. Sadao then hesitated again. They thought the best thing to do to this man is throw him back into the sea. But they could not gather courage, or their heart did not, allow them to do so. Though, of course, they were thinking on it. It's not in our favor. But there was, I can say, the humanitarian cause was even higher or even greater, and that's what sometimes then we, do. Like even Yudhishthir had to, tell a lie. The reason is it is for a greater cause, for the cause of fighting for the cause of dharma that he had done. So we are also sometimes caught in kind of this kind of dilemma, and then we will have to choose one particular way, which sometimes we feel is not, it will not go in our favor, but we still have to choose this because that is even higher than the other present, benefit of yours. So he must be thinking on that. His mind was divided, and then he must have said, the strange thing is that if the man were whole, we could turn him over to the police without difficulty. What does it mean if the man were whole? This means if the man was in his complete, or you can say without any injury, then this man, even if in the unconscious kind of state, he could have been handed over to the police. Could have been the easiest thing for them also to do, and they would not have been much of thinking. So it could have been the kindest thing to do. Therefore, they say, if this man had been whole, we could have given him, handed him over to the police without difficulty. I care nothing for him. Now you see, his patriotic feelings are spoken of. If you can underline these lines and can mark over there the patriotic, you can say, nature of Sadao. Suppose, a tricky question is asked to you, express or you can just put in your words, how do you find Sadao as a patriot to his country? So you will have to look at those lines. Or else there can be kind of question, can you put the dilemma of Sadao both as a patriot and as a doctor? So for patriot, this thing you can mention, and for Sadao as a doctor, what he did and his mind as it was, directly, or you can say very naturally, it was handling that situation. Those things you can mention over there. Well, you can note or you can just underline those things. I care nothing for him. So he says, maybe in a spurt of, you can say, anger, I don't care for him. He is my enemy. Next line immediately. And so the title is The Enemy. All Americans are my enemy. And he is only a common fellow. You see how foolish his face is. But since he is wounded, now and after that some dots are there. So we try to understand what the author wants to convey by this. He has some techniques, and the reader should be smart enough to understand all those things, through which actually we would be able to appreciate the work of the author, and we would be able to understand the work so well. Now I see 49 people are watching at this moment. Quite so happy. Please increase this number. It will do your benefit, because as you read it, sometimes now 50, half century, I clap for you all. So sometimes what happens, we are in a kind of state of indecisiveness. We are not able to decide. But here, what we understand is, as we, I'll just get back to one more important, then I'll explain to you. First of all, we become friends with someone. Do we generally ask, what place does he belong to? What culture does he belong to? No. It is only that spontaneous flow of friendship that goes, and that makes us, make us feel that we are a friend to somebody. Next comes is, after some period of time, because we are, grown up in that culture, so we do understand and we also set certain parameters, and we are also of course at fault to find out, to come to know the exact identity of the person in order to put in one particular slot of being my friend or of being only acquaintance of mine. Now, if we just become friends with someone, we may appreciate the good work, or the good nature of the person, the good talk of the person, the good communicative skills of the person, the good you can say skills of the person. Come to know of any of them. But later on, when we come to know, there are some other finer things to know about it. Then we also find we are able to find some negative things on the basis of which we can even reject that friendship. Now here, initially they had rushed to this fellow only to help on the grounds of humanity. Now that is taking out second seat, because the primary concern for them is if they are patriots, their responsibilities are there towards the nation, and therefore how they can favor this man, because this man is only their enemy, and he says that all Americans are my enemies. And now you see, his disgust is expressing in the words. Look at his face, how foolish, it appears. You see his face, you see how foolish his face is. And though he said all that, but this means, though these things are there, though this fellow is only an American and is my enemy, yet there is one more thing. He's wounded. Now, what should I do? So my duty as a doctor becomes more important, maybe. So this, I think, we all must be able to remember. It was how his mind was divided. So how his mind was facing this difficult situation. What to decide at that particular moment. You see, you also cannot throw him back to the sea because he is wounded. Hannah said, then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house. I think this is the point wherein they come to a conclusion. What they have to do is they have to ultimately take this fellow their home. Now you can understand, you are housing someone who is an enemy to you, and the time to come, do you think that it is going to be comfortable for you? No. Now, but they will have to justify some time. They have helped that man only because he was wounded. So it's the duty of the doctor to help out a man, or to treat a man or a person, whoever is he or whatever country does he belong to, because saving the life is the job of the doctor, and that's what they had exactly done over there. So they of course had then finally part of it, they must definitely help this man out by taking this fellow home. Next is, but the servants. Now what will happen? It's not that it's in the house only we two are there. There are other people also who always keep on coming, and these people are our servants. And if they notice that we are trying to help that man who is, a prisoner of war and our own enemy, will be trouble anytime, and this news will definitely go to those people. Well, I think this page number 28 here I would like to end today's class. But if there is any doubt of yours, in the meanwhile you can. I'll of course put some questions in the next class. But I think this explanation of mine must have been sufficient. In case still any doubts are there, I'm still here for a minute or two. You can put your questions and I will be helping you. So in the next class, page number 29, though it takes little more time, please have enough patience. In the regular class, for me, it would have taken some 10 classes. So you just imagine as we are going word by word and line by line. So I am just reading from the text. So it will take some more time. I think so far there is no such query. Tomorrow I'll put some question. Day after tomorrow I'll put you some question at the beginning of the class. So good day for today and do your honest work. Thank you.